didn't see that. It just disappeared on me. Record.
Recording in progress.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the West Suburban Computer Club. And I'd like to, our typical format will be open forum, and then we can go into our presentation, which is no presentation. It's going to be a group participation. Tonight, we're going to talk about what gadgets we have bought that we cannot part with, that we've had for a while, and they have no purpose today. So, with that being said, I'd like to open up the floor with the first question of the evening. None.
Everybody talking at once will get us nowhere.
I realize that. It'll just get us nowhere. So we go, and no one's got a question they'd like to ask the group. If not, I'll kind of prod us in a direction.
I just updated the latest 23H2 for my Windows 11.
Okay.
Now, is that the latest?
Yes.
At the moment.
In a couple months, it'll be replaced with 24H2.
Okay.
If you choose to get it.
Now,
It's
Windows 10, we're not going to get any more major updates, correct?
Correct.
But we're going to continue to get security updates for how
That's
long?
all. Well, at least through October 14th of next year. After that, at the moment, you'd have to pay. If you don't pay, you get nothing.
Okay, what about, are they going to remove the free upgrade from 10 to 11?
Don't know. Haven't heard anything. So
Okay.
I'm assuming you can. But because of the difference between 10 and 11, I would say do not wait on it for very long, because you've got a lot to figure out in the new 11 that's completely different from 10. Things are different locations, sometimes different things. They are making an extra effort to get rid of the control panel, the old control panel, but I can't tell you right now exactly when that's going to happen. But they are depreciating the control panel, and are going to try and get it so that settings always comes up.
Okay.
So, but there's still about maybe at least 4 things or so that you can easily do in a control panel that right now you can't do in 11's settings. But I personally, because I work differently on the computers as a tech, I already know several of the alternate ways of getting those items to work for me when I need them.
Yeah, and if all else fails, just use search.
That sometimes will bring it up, but not 100%. You gotta really look carefully at what it does bring up, because a
Very
lot
true.
of times, if it shows the magnifying glass, that's doing a search out on the internet, not giving you something that's already in your machine.
Does
I've already limited that.
okay, did Windows 11 eliminate the backup feature that currently exists in Windows 10? That is, in Windows 10, you can use the Windows 7 backup feature.
That's still
Does
there.
that still exist in 11?
It's still there.
It's still there.
But
Okay.
understand, that old backup utility is really old in the tooth. Number 2, it does not have a verify feature in the backup program to make certain that the image it created also matches your system as it is. which most other backup programs do.
Okay.
Though some of them it's on automatically. On some of them you have to manually turn it on and it stays on. But otherwise, back in the 7 days, you had to take and do what's called a manual verification. That involved taking about 2 or 3 small files that you know are out on the drive, scattered around, and 1 or 2 small folders that only have a couple items in them that are small, and restoring them from that backup. If that works, you're go. You're probably good all the way. If it fails, scrap the whole backup and do it again, and you keep doing it until it gets it right.
Got it.
If
So
that's
can we
that's
talk about,
productive,
since we're on backups, can we talk about Macrium Reflectlet?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Many of us use Macrium Reflect precisely because it's got a prettier interface, and for many of us it's easier to use than the Windows tool. And it does have a verify, which while it's not on by default, you can very easily check it off. And it has a whole checklist of features you can check off very nicely. You can
Okay.
also store a brief comment about what this backup is and what it contains. So if you're not too worried about it, you can store that with your backup. And all you do then is the backup archive. You just mouse over it and it'll tell you what it is, what it
also
contains.
an
Okay.
alternate to Macrium Reflect, since they went to subscription, the free still works at the moment. You never know when that could get pulled, and it was rock solid for me all the time. But an alternate is Easeus to do backup.
Yeah. It's not as pretty, but it works.
Yeah,
It's ease
E-
US.
Easeus space 2-do space backup.
Okay.
it's not a dash, it's all one word, to do. But they capitalize the D in do.
All right. And what about Acronis?
Oh,
It's expensive, but it's good.
it's good, but it's always been a subscription.
Okay. Now
Now,
Acronis used to be just backup. Doesn't it do other stuff now?
They try to do a lot.
almost every program has to keep evolving and adding features and capabilities, because if they don't, they become obsolete and people don't use them. Period.
Okay. So does anyone here still use Acronis?
No, I only run into a few people now and then that bring up Acronis in various meetings I attend. But there are still a few people. But you're talking $50 a year. Uh, right now, I forget what Macrium Reflect is, but if you get a Macrium Reflect subscription on Black Friday or Cyber Monday, usually you get it at a big discount and you can have it for multiple machines.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
probably,
forget what I paid for it, but I think it was something like $24 for 4 licenses.
yeah. And that's half of what Acronis usually goes for.
Well, it's less than half, it's a quarter.
Now Macrium Reflect, when you buy it, you're buying it for that current version and all
Right.
the updates for that version.
Right. It's a
But you
subscription.
but you do have the full license copy, which lets you do full and incremental
That's
and yada
correct.
yada yada
Yeah.
backups, right?
Just like Acronis.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can also navigate within your backup archives and restore individual files and folders.
Okay.
So, and I'm pretty sure, though I haven't done Acronis in somewhere between 15 and 20 years, basically it should still be doing pretty much the same thing as Macrium Reflect. Uh, I don't know whether you can get special deals on it, like in Black Friday, Cyber Monday or not. And there used to be discounts for user groups. I don't know
Yeah.
that that still exists.
Yeah,
Well,
that guy
I
up in
think that's a
Utah.
little research you need to do. Why don't you look and see if they got any discounts for us user groups?
Well, that sounds like an APCOG thing to do.
That's correct.
Yeah. Pose it to them. Maybe somebody there knows.
Well,
I mean,
the original guy who was selling it, I don't know if he made it or not, but he's literally shut himself down and
Yeah.
had turned it over to one or more of his kids. I think I remember someone saying earlier this year that it was going to go away, but I could be wrong.
I don't know because I haven't used it in a long time, haven't kept up.
Yeah, me neither. So generally speaking, that there's getting to be fewer and fewer what are called freeware or shareware type programs. They're everything practically under the sun is moving to a subscription service.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because you get better support with subscriptions, and you're pretty sure it's going to keep on being there.
Well, theoretically, you could say that for Acronis, but if I'm remembering correctly, that may not be true in the near future if it isn't already stopped.
Well, the thing is, if you're paying for it, there's at least a chance that they've got enough revenue stream to keep going.
Well,
Whereas we have a chronic problem with free open source software in that it keeps going away.
yeah, but also too, like Macrium Reflect free, that one just keeps working free, but it only limits you to system image backups and restore. No incremental, no differential.
Right.
But how long that'll go, I don't know. They could send out a code that shuts that down at any time. We don't know. And until then, it does work as good as the subscription service, which I have both
Yeah.
because I have so many different machines. But aside from that one aspect, you have a situation with a lot of them, and this was true of Macrium Reflect. They had so many people using the free version, they couldn't make any money off of the thing. That's why they went subscription. And
Hey
that's why a
guys,
lot of others are doing it too.
hey guys, novice here, but I guess when I heard freeware, my question would have been, how do you know the integrity of the freeware when you download it? I mean, that's what would steer me towards something like Acronis for a name that I know and have known. But when you look at freeware, what are you downloading?
Downloading, basically, when it comes down to it, potentially the same kind of software that you may be paying for, but at the same time, too, the person who does it either does it free because they love doing and making up these programs. I know several that do that. And at the same time, too, you have the possibility that, hey, they have a regular job and do this on the side. So they may have a lifestyle change that stops them from working on it. So it becomes eventually obsolete unless somebody else picks it up and tries to make a forked version of the same software.
I think Brad was leaning
Yeah,
towards, he was curious about how do you know when you're downloading a software that the site itself or the place you're getting it from is
Oh,
reputable and you're not dealing with a secondary or tertiary site where it could have been hacked
the major
software.
the majority
Two
are
things.
the
Go ahead,
majority are
Bob.
through a
No.
library of stuff. For example, in Linux, you have a store that's of a lot of software products that are free. And you have basically the same thing with Microsoft Store under Windows. But when you usually get software, you're getting it from that or one of these businesses that they get a kickback for everything that gets downloaded.
All right,
And
Bob, Bob, go ahead, fill in.
I the way you find out about free software is that you find out about sites that I often review it and legitimate tech sites that you believe that you can trust. And they will post what the correct address is to go to so you don't get caught up in these lookalikes and fakes. And you also will go to user groups like this or other kinds of groups. Nowadays, people have Facebook groups and Reddits and things like that. And generally, if there's a lot of problems with a site, it will get a reputation for being bad. And if there's
Yeah.
a lot of good stuff coming from a site, it'll get a reputation for being good.
in some of
Fair
your
enough.
protection software, if they find out about a bad site, they will block it on your system.
It depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about places that collect software, they'll block the bad sites. But if you're talking about going direct to the source,
Oh, I've
you
had
better know where you're going.
I
Yeah.
well, yeah, but I've gone to sources sometimes that were given out even in user groups, and my software protection stops me and says, "Wait a minute, this has got a bad reputation. We don't recommend you go there. Back out of it."
Oh, in other words, this is part of your browser guard security stuff.
Yes,
I
Okay,
don't like those because they're reputation services and they've been known to block sites where I found legitimate stuff. But
occasionally I've
I
had
know
that
what
too.
I'm doing.
I
If you don't think you know what you're doing, you better rely on these browser guards.
so Brad, the key here is go to talk to Bob. Bob knows what he's doing. He's going to direct you to the right spot to go to.
Yeah,
Tim is going to tell you, don't go there because I've had a problem, but Bob will tell you the right spot to go.
Yeah, no, I think I got that from Bob. But it is a concern because if it's freeware, how do you really know? And again, I guess you go to different sites, PC Magazine or something like that, or whatever that will tell you about the freeware. And if if looks good to be true, then it's good to be true, I guess.
well,
yeah.
Often you can type in the name of the product itself, as in like Macrium Reflect. Go to the Macrium Reflect website to download their free software, their free version. But if it's something that is communal based, you're going to have to get that from another organization that's going to be holding that software and being able to distribute it.
Yeah, we
well,
run into these kinds of issues of community developed software much more in Linux than you do in Windows.
yeah,
And in Linux, there are two kinds of repositories. Some of them are personal collections, and they might be JIT, they might be PPAs in Ubuntu, they might be something else. But what's relevant for Windows is Windows also has software that can come from GitHub, GitLab. It can come from some other places like that, and you have to be sure you're at the right JIT.
yes, because Bradley, five of the people you see images of on this group right now are Linux users also. So
All right.
Not me.
basically none of us are paying for any software on our Linux operating system. It's all freeware.
Yeah, you can pay for some things in Linux, but it's not the usual practice.
Right. You can, as
So
I
Linux users are often going to sites that are not necessarily 100% kosher.
well,
Well, it's not that they aren't kosher, it's that you may or may not be able to trust them.
under two of them that I know of offhand for Windows OS. One is nightnight.com, NINITE.com. It's freeware. You check off what you want. The other one is called patchmypc.com. .com/home. And Patch My PC has a lot of varying free software. You, again, in the list on the left side, check off what you want, and it will automatically download and do a silent install. And there's no add-ons, no extras that sometimes you can get in other pieces of software that are either
Yeah.
freeware or shareware.
And there is another place where Windows users can get lots of software from one very reputable source. It operates through WinGet, and it's called, let me pull it up again. It is called Uniget UI. And Uniget UI is just a graphical front end for WinGet. And WinGet is not just a feature in the Windows terminal, PowerShell, or command. It is also a community, just like JIT is a community, GitHub. So WinGet has something like 6,000 programs in their collection at Uniget. And it's kind of
What is it?
convoluted how you install
Wait.
it, but once you get it installed, it's good.
Bob, can you put the URL in the chat?
Sure, I'll put the Uniget place in there. And I'll also put in a reference about WinGet.
Thank you.
Now, these are reputable places you found to get freeware.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a couple other places that seem to do quite good job, but I'm not certain they're as good as those three. It's one is called File Puma, one's called File Hippo, another one is oh boy,
Major Geeks is another one.
Major Geeks is another one. Another one is boy, I can't think of the name now. I got a freeze on my.
That's okay. He'll come, yeah.
It's another site that I get. Softpedia.com. Softpedia.com.
Yeah. Also good.
And
I'm doing
once in a while, spottech.com.
Techspot.
Oh, Techspot. I got it backwards.
Yeah, that one's not quite as reputable. I've seen things there that aren't quite the right stuff, but
Yeah,
it's still a good one.
yeah, it's generally a good one. But there's lots of sites out there. Those sites are their own little stores, like Microsoft Store or the stores you get in a Linux distro, and they're collecting pieces of software from the developers, who then always send a new version as it comes out to those sites. So, and there
Yeah.
can be a lag of time between the actual software developer releasing it and the time one of those places gets a copy of it.
Thank you, Bob, for putting that stuff in the link in the chat. So down, if you don't know, the chat is down in the bottom. It'll say chat, and if you click on that, you'll get the conversations. You could talk to anybody directly in the group, and you could also receive the texts of what things like what Bob is sending out.
And if you want to save it, you simply go to the upper right, the three dots, and do save chat.
Right.
And then show in folder, and you can see it as it develops.
Right, and you want to say that, what, at the end of the night or
Yeah,
as you
you
go?
want to save it at the end of the night, because right now it'll only save what's out there now and nothing new.
Got it.
So always do the save just before the meeting ends.
The
Just
one
like-
caveat about that is if you come in late or if you get kicked out of the meeting, you won't see the whole chat.
Right. That's
So I usually
absolutely
save
true.
as I go in pieces and then save the whole thing at the end.
if before 7 o'clock we put something in the chat and you weren't here at the right time, you wouldn't see that unless we.
But you can always reach out to me if
Yeah.
I'm recording the meeting. I get all the chats and those are saved on my machine when I am running the meetings. I put that in there because if other people may not get the ability to save the chats. So I do keep them and have them in my archives.
Yeah, there are some devices where people have reported they couldn't
Right.
save the chat.
APCUG doesn't allow it. They actually restrict the chat because too many people were using the chat having miscellaneous conversations back and forth in text and distracting both the people who are running it as well as a lot of the people attending the meeting.
Okay, but that's APCUG, that's
That's
not
correct.
us. They got their own problems, we got ours.
So anyway, now you know where to get software, and now you know how to be pretty sure that you're getting the real deal, legitimate.
All right, so you download this software, whatever software he might decide to download. How's he going to know that it's not loaded with viruses?
Well,
He
that's
should have
what your
virus
virus
detection.
scanners are for.
So would you scan that individual file, or does it automatically get scanned when you download it?
It depends on how you set up your antivirus.
Right.
Antivirus can be scan on access, scan on download, scan on demand.
Right. So it depends on how you got your system set.
But you can always do a scan on demand, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. By the way, now when it comes to and I forgot to mention it, on the two that I first mentioned, Night Night and Patch My PC, those go into your download folder. You can move them anywhere you want to, but you have to remember where you put them. I usually leave them right in the download folder, and then I create a shortcut with a right click and more options if it's 11, and create a shortcut, put the shortcut on my desktop.
Now, I would like to include a little caution. It isn't that you shouldn't use these things, but if you have something like WinGet, or if you're getting an update through some of these other programs that update lots of programs at once, they won't put it into your downloads. They will just simply do the updates and they will not download anything except maybe something temporary.
Right, that's
So you then need to be able to trust the tool that you're
right.
using.
The Night Night and Patch My PC work that way. They download it into a temporary area, install it for you with no extras, and then it is deleted after they're all done.
It keeps your system cleaner, but you cannot do that extra scan.
Yeah. For that one there, you have to manually initiate a scan of your system. And that depends upon the type of scan you do. There are quick scans and there are in-depth scans, and an in-depth takes much longer. This is where I use Malwarebytes free version.
Yeah, and then you've got the problem that Windows Defender, at least, and probably other programs, may actually try to block a piece of freeware from installing. I don't know how these programs get around that, but if you were doing it yourself, you would have an extra screen where you could say, run it anyway.
right. It'll give you an alert and then you just say, go ahead, I trust this site,
Yeah.
install it.
I don't know if some of these multiple program downloaders might actually get dead-ended at that point.
Right. Okay, I think we covered those questions pretty well. Wayne, yes, there you are. Wake up. You had talked about Intel drivers and that you were running the Iris Intel.
Graphics.
I can't, you're muted, Wayne. There you are.
Okay, Iris XE.
Right.
It's the video chip that comes on some laptops and desktops.
So
Yeah.
what you could do is you can go to, here you go, Intel's site, and I recommend, now somebody else might say something different, but I would recommend installing the Intel Driver Support Assistant. And I can
Okay.
put this URL into the chat afterward, in just afterwards I'm done. What this does is it's basically a driver download software manager from Intel. And Bob, he kind of turned me on to this one, and it's always pestering. It always seems to come up with some updates. But if you're running a PC that's basically an Intel motherboard, like a laptop or something, it's all Intel chips on there.
Yeah.
I think this is a very good service to employ. It's free, and then you get BIOS updates as well as driver updates for all the Intel devices that are on your system, and it'll constantly be giving you some fresh ones. Bob, you may want to elaborate any more on this.
Yes, if you have a branded laptop or PC, you will also want to go to the manufacturer website. Don't use the Intel BIOS update. Use the manufacturer's BIOS update. They
Yeah.
often customize those. And there are certain other drivers that you might want to use the manufacturer. Dell in particular tends to customize things, so does Lenovo, and they have their own updaters. And I have a PC from Asus, and it has its own updater, but I only got that updater after I changed how I was updating the BIOS. This was originally Micro Center branded, and I changed it to being Asus branded. So now I get the Asus, what does it call itself? Oh, I know what it is. I have my Asus updater is called Armory Crake, and there are different ones that Lenovo has and that Dell has, and that's so you get what's specific to your manufacturer, your model. But otherwise, Intel for very generic drivers is very good. However, it will conflict with Windows Update if you're getting drivers through there. So you need to learn how to disable Windows Update doing your drivers. Tell it not to do them.
There's one other thing that I want to mention here because some people are not on Windows 11. Windows 11 gives you a lot of BIOS updates if it's a business class system, and will give you a lot of the Intel drivers as well automatically. And in some cases, they have additional ones. You have to go down to the advanced options, and you're looking for another entry that will, hang on one second, and I can look it up. And basically, let's see here, settings, come on, Windows Update. If you go down from the top, it says advanced options. Then on the second page, there's additional options. It says optional updates. If there's a non-zero value, there are more drivers or other pieces of software that can be installed. And you want to click on that. It says for me right now, I've got a driver update available if I want to. This one's from Realtek Corporation for my network interface card.
Yeah, that's a good thing for many people, but if you're getting updates from either Intel or your manufacturer, particularly graphics drivers, what Microsoft Update is trying to push is going to be a downgrade. And
Yeah.
that's why I block those.
That's fine.
Now,
And I don't disagree with that at all. It's a case where every now and then, even Microsoft has a bad update of some kind. And part of that is because of the diverse history of hardware out there. And each manufacturer is given specifications Microsoft suggests, but a lot of them try and create cost saving shortcuts because they think they know what they're doing. And eventually down the road, it creates all kinds of havoc for some people when they get one of these bad updates that doesn't really apply to their system.
Yeah, it's not a bad update situation. It's that Microsoft makes a rookie error. They do not have a block against downgrading your drivers.
That's
They
true.
should. They don't. That's why I block their drivers.
now that there's a problem here. This Intel driver support assistant. It
Yeah,
says installing this graphics driver from Intel will remove customizations from your computer manufacturer.
yeah.
If a newer graphic driver is available from HP, we recommend that you install our driver instead. And that's
Yeah,
what I've
so
been doing.
so
That's what
go
I've
to
been
the
doing.
HP site. Go to the HP site, see if they
Yeah,
have an
that's what I
up-to-date
did.
driver.
Yeah,
If they don't have anything really up to date and the Intel driver is more up to date, I would go with the Intel driver. They usually have more features.
You
And
got
they
okay.
usually are pretty backward compatible. HP, they don't conflict with. Asus, they haven't.
you got to
Will the numbers be
understand
the same?
in our computers, the biggest major manufacturer of most of the chips and motherboards still is Intel. And therefore, a lot of the software that they have available uh, should work. But like Bob's pointing out, it may not be the best for your manufacturer's machine
Yeah,
because lots of them, again, doing various shortcuts may find that they have a problem with the Intel driver. Therefore, they will make a custom tailored version of the same thing, but you don't know exactly when it's going to come out.
Yeah. I so what will happen is in answer to Sanford, the driver numbering is likely to be the same at Intel and the manufacturer. Or the manufacturer may even be a lower number. And yet that's what's right for your hardware.
And you have to watch one other little gotcha. Sometimes from some of the sites that you can get drivers from, uh, they don't know, oh, you got a system that was built 6 years ago, but they're trying to give you yesterday's released driver, which won't work on your system. You have to be able to know which one it is, go into device manager in Windows and do a rollback. So it puts the old driver back in and your system keeps working.
Does that happen often? I've not run
I've had
across
it
that.
maybe a dozen times over the course of about 15 years.
Okay, so it's very infrequent that
Right.
that a an older, I'm sorry, a new driver is going to be loaded in that's not compatible with your hardware.
Right.
Usually there's a check going on.
In most sites, yes, but not all sites. That's what I'm
Not
getting at.
always. So you're giving us the asterisk so we know
That's
down
right.
the line this could come up.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, because some of the let's take HP as one good example, and I've got quite a number of HP systems. Okay, a lot of times you will see like HP Elite 800 G1, G2, G3, G4, G5, etc. That's a generation of the same product name and series that, okay, a driver for a 800 G7 sounds great, but my machine's a G3 and it may not work. It might, but it may not. And you got to be able to roll back your driver.
More and more these days, the installers are throwing up error codes saying this isn't for your machine.
Right,
Yes,
right.
and
So
I wish that
that's
was standard.
It isn't.
No, it's not. That's the thing with computers. There
all right.
is no
Okay,
standard.
let's move on to a better subject. Okay,
Okay.
I don't know what, but it's going to be a better subject. I'm waiting for another question from the group.
Today, I just saw a release of Bluetooth 6. But remember, Bluetooth is hardware based. Therefore, to get 6, you have to have a new piece of hardware. And it could
Okay.
be
Next question, new direction. None. Okay. I guess we could go into some of our subject for tonight that I threw out for everybody to participate in was to show us some gadgets that you can't seem to get rid of, but they're computer related, and we all want to hear about them and see them. So, who would like to start up? It's Bob Baxter, since you usually leave early, do you have any gadgets you want to show us?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
I thought for sure you were going to have some great things that you could only find in Seattle.
Yeah. I've got several other irons in the fire, so I don't have time to play with those right now.
Okay, all right. Wayne, do you have any?
Well, I've got X10 system,
Okay,
and some of the old stuff that I had used to run off of, I had to program it with the computer, and I've recently been able to buy a thing from X10 that plugs into the wall and works on Wi-Fi.
okay. So your X10, tell us for those who may not know, what is X10? Sounds like a
X10,
spaceship to me.
well, they were doing experiments on how to control a record player many years ago, and they did all kinds of different experiments. And finally, on the 10th experiment that came up with this, it's got 256 codes that sent out over the electric wires, and you can control lights by putting a module in your plug anywhere in the house.
So it's a
And
home automation system.
yeah, correct. And it's probably over 40 years old, but it still works. And it actually goes all the way out to the transformer. So anybody that's on the same side of the transformer that you are can't have the same coding. Because I had a neighbor that had that. He was turning my lights on and off. But there's 16 house or the 16 codes within 16, so it's 256 total codes that can be sent out.
Well, at least he wasn't starting your car for you.
No, no.
Some more competing products that are new are
Right.
Wemo and Wise.
I've got some BN Link. It works strictly on Wi-Fi. I've replaced some of my X10 with the BN Link, and it works strictly on Wi-Fi. And I can control the lights, program them with my iPad or my iPhone. Well,
Thank you, Wayne.
I got an X10 camera that I had, that I've got a newer version that I've gotten, but it works off of Wi-Fi as well, and it records. I've got it set in the window, so I watch what's going on outside of the house.
And so it's a camera system too, instead of just lights?
Yeah,
Well, that's
and
interesting.
it works on Wi-Fi as well.
Yeah, most of these work on 2.4 gigahertz for these
Yeah,
home
yeah.
automation devices. That's why you need at least a dual band router, so you have the 2.4 support.
This is the
Can't see
latest
it.
one.
There you go. Oh, look at that.
Same for some of the doorbell cameras. They work basically the same way off of 2.4, etc.
And you see the
There you go. Somewhere in there. You got,
there
you
you go.
get that blurred background going on.
Yeah,
Now
Yeah.
we can read it.
Can you
yeah,
read that there?
yeah.
Well, we could see it.
Yeah,
Don't
I
know
can
how to
Okay.
read
read
it.
the fine print.
Can't read it yet. We can't focus because you got background blur.
Yeah, I have to turn that off.
Yeah, turn that off and then you can see better.
Yeah, let me see video
Under
setting.
video.
Yeah, where's it? Video, true mirror. Where's advanced?
Yeah, go down to camera
Yeah, I
and then
did.
background. You want to adjust the background. So it's one of the things that say blur my background. It's under camera.
So yeah, wait a minute. Let's go back to the camera here.
Just go back to the camera. It's on the main selections.
Down towards the bottom.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. Blur. There we go.
Okay, if you uncheck
There we
that.
go. There you
All
go.
right. So
How
yeah,
about that?
now we can see this much better.
Yeah, now hold it up a little higher so we can read the serial number.
So we can see that, see the
But,
specs. Look at that camera. All right, so you still use this camera.
well, I got the new one. This is the box for the new one. I'll show you the old one. Here's the old one that I had.
Okay. Is that duct tape on there?
I put that because it uses light at night
Yeah.
and it had it inside the window and it was reflecting off the window.
Oh, I
And
see.
it doesn't work good. And I
And so
had
you
this on
decide
I had
instead
this
of
on
an
a little
outdoor camera, you're using an indoor camera pointing
I'm
out.
using it, yeah, I had it indoors. So because this you can't use it outdoors. It's not weatherproof. So I had it inside looking through the window, and the problem is at night this would it would light up and it would reflect off of the window.
Okay.
So anyway, I got the newer one now, but I've had this for quite a while, and I can access it. It actually records for with a little chip I got in there. I can record almost a whole month's worth of data. And
Wow.
I can access it on my iPad and uh, and it'll show you minute second by second. You can see cars moving. You can see what's going on.
And with Wise devices, you can get an app on Android or iPhone
Yeah,
because I use them some myself. One little tip that I'll give you, the Wise also has Wi-Fi bulbs, and you put it into a lamp, you turn it on,
yeah,
you
yeah.
pair it up with the Wise app, and one little nice feature, though it doesn't seem like it at first, if you have a short power outage, the light turns on and stays on when the power comes back on until you use the app to turn it off. That way you know you had some kind of an outage.
Here's what it looks like on my phone, and then I can say right now it's at night.
All you got to do is go out
You can
there
see
and
the car. You can see the car moving.
just make sure at night you always have a full moon. It'll light things
Yeah.
up. Well, Bob Premick or Dennis, do you have anything?
Well,
No, I don't really find much of anything at all.
I do have older stuff that hangs around. I have a Sling box, which I was using for a long time. Or I never really got to the point where I was using that because I found that my cable DVR and later on my Tivo could do just about what that Sling box was doing. And the only reason I think I had it was because I had the AT&T DirecTV service, which at the time only worked with Sling and a couple of other devices. And I never really got around to doing much with it. I I also have a Chromecast. It's an earlier generation, which I do not use. I because I got a device from Tivo that's the Tivo Stream, and if I want to stream something, I use that. I don't have time for television anymore, though. Now that I have a lot of volunteer work that I do, and so that's why these devices just kind of sit around collecting a lot of dust. I also do have dozens of old hard drives. Who doesn't? But they're just sitting around with old data on them, or some of them go back to probably USB 1. So I don't think I could put them on a modern PC, but what would be the point?
What would be the point? So how
Then
would you get rid of your old hard drives?
if I really don't think there's anything on it worth saving, I would take the drive apart and make sure the platters in some way get damaged or destroyed beyond any use. They're not normal electronic recycling.
Right?
Because they do have data on them. There's lots of other things you would normally think you could recycle or repurpose that have data on them, even printers.
So,
And you have to know how to get rid of that data
Yeah, hard
before you
drives. Hard
do it.
drives bring up a special thing. You know how to get rid of those. In the past, I've taken a big hammer to them
Yeah,
and pounded down on them just enough to deform them, because that makes it hard for somebody to get any data out of it. Another thing was to take a drill and just drill right into it and drill through the platters. That absolutely makes it so they're unreadable. Uh,
yeah,
but that takes a lot of work to drill into a hard drive. It really does. It takes a lot of effort to do that. Um, and it can be a little dangerous if
yeah.
that drill bit decides to dance around on the surface there.
Hmm.
well, most people will recommend using a drill press for that. That way
Right.
it's not bouncing around. And usually you have on a drill press a platform vise that you can hold the drive in, and it just holds it all rigid. And you just pull down the rotating lever, down goes the bit, and there goes the hole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have an old Fire Stick. It was one of my first things. I haven't used that in 15 years or something like that. I went to Roku and I like Roku better. And there's things that I keep reading from time to time of how to side load Fire Sticks with various pieces of software, and not all of it is nice software. So that's for me another reason to avoid the Fire Sticks.
Fire sticks are hackable. Yes. I was able to get one once a long time ago that could download all kinds of movies and torrents and stuff right to it. And you didn't know if you were doing something legal or illegal when you're using that device because it would go out to like Pirate Bay and torrents, other torrent sites, and you wouldn't know it, but that's what it's doing. It's downloading those torrents from movies that you're not licensed to get.
Yeah, I mean, that can be done on almost any device where you're able to build your own. If you're able to install Kodi on the device, HD Homerun is like this too. If you can put Kodi on the device, you can set it up in such a way that it can do things it's not supposed to.
Right.
I VPNs are involved, and I won't go into details, but yeah. Also, we had somebody sit in. This may not be the meeting, but it was either this or Tips and Tricks, and they were talking about a streaming service where to sign up for it, you paid in Bitcoin, and in order to use it, you had to use a VPN. How legitimate that is, I do not know.
From
Don't know.
from everything I heard and read about it, I would suspect not. And so I'd be real leery of using that service.
Yeah, there are some red flags when you're looking for services, but that's getting a little off topic of the older devices.
Tim, do you have any gadgets you'd like to show to us?
I don't have them shown it, but I do use Wi-Fi bulbs. I use a couple of the switches to turn a few lights on and off or appliances because all it is a relay switch that's activated by your Wi-Fi signal. And
Right.
all this stuff works on 2.4 gigahertz, like I mentioned earlier. They do make cameras that are pretty darn inexpensive, but a lot of the newer ones are getting a little more expensive. But Weiss seems to keep the prices way down as much as possible. You can even get Weiss devices unless they stopped at Home Depot if you got a Home Depot near you.
Okay. Bob? Private?
Yeah, we
Permit.
already went to meet for a few things while you were out, and I talked already about a couple of devices that I
Right.
don't use any longer. And that's how we got onto these older hard drives.
Right. Sorry, my bad.
But anyway, yeah, just to review, I have a Sling box that doesn't get used anymore, and I have an old Chromecast. And that Sling box never really got much use anyway.
Did you like the swing box when you used it?
I didn't use it enough to really get much of a feel for whether I liked it. I didn't use its extra channels for streaming or anything. I had a DSL line at the time with at&t Direct TV as it was offered at the time, and there just wasn't enough bandwidth to stream much of anything. But I did need a recording device, and at the time at&t didn't provide one, so that's what I was using. Now that I have Comcast and lots of bandwidth, I can stream. I have two devices from Tivo. And one of them's the Tivo Stream, and the other's the off-the-air recorder. But their off-the-air recorder does not record the next-gen TV because they were unable to work out a licensing agreement.
Yeah.
HD Homerun has the same problem.
Right. It does.
And that may be permanent.
I suspect it is because I cannot pull in one channel here that came with the new specs.
Mm-hmm.
Even though
Yeah.
the TVs can see it,
Yeah.
but I don't get that. The TVs can see it, but the HD home run can't.
There may be tuners you can get, but I think the device would still not be able to record because it does not have the certificate needed.
Right.
That has to be in the device. And no one has worked out a contract for it.
Right. So for anyone that may not be following what we're referring to, HD Home Run is a channel converter or an antenna converter. So it will take your signals that are coming in from broadcast TV that are free, and it will convert them, it'll receive them and convert them and put it over so it's available to your home network across your home network, if you will. So they're a little box, and you run your cable from your antenna that's up on your roof to this box, and then you connect up an RJ45, and it converts the signal and sends it off to your network. And then on your network, you can browse it. You can watch this TV. You can watch TV on any smart device. You just load in the HD Home Run app or some other apps, and you'll be able to watch TV, even record TV. CBS in our location, CBS channel, that is channel 2, is the one culprit that switched over to the new programming, and I can't pull that one in no matter what, for what it's worth.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that a lot of what used to be primetime content is going to drift over to the streaming services.
Right. It will.
And those are handled completely differently.
Right. Now, the new spec for over-the-air broadcast, what is that, ATC 3.0?
Yeah, ATSC3. ATSC3, also known as Next Gen TV.
Right. ATSC, I gotta write that down.
3.
TSC3 is the new spec, and that is supposed to give us 4K.
4K and even 8K.
4K and even 8K. Wow. And it could be even individualized broadcasting. I don't know what that means yet, because there's so much more capability on that bandwidth that they're going to be using for this ATSC3, and it's yet to be explored, all the capabilities. But it's coming, and it's free.
Yeah, but you can't record it.
You say, Sanford, that you can't get channel 2 CBS?
I can get it. I cannot get it on my HD Home Run, but I can get it on my TVs.
Yes, okay.
Okay,
But
no problem with it.
I used to get, which is NBC, and I can't get it anymore.
Okay, I don't know anything about NBC because I have no problem with that. And there, as far as I know, they did not change their location of their transmitter.
Well, some reason one day all of a sudden 2 showed up that hadn't shown up for years, and then a short time later 5 disappears, and I have no idea why.
And you've done a rescan?
Pardon?
Have you done a rescan lately?
Yes.
Okay.
That's how I got 2 as a regular now instead of 2 as a mistake of trying to get a different channel, but
Right.
ended up getting 2, and I found out, ooh, hey, it works.
Maybe you just need a new amplifier to boost your signal a little better.
I don't know what it is.
I mean, I would try that. That's a cheap fix. You could go to Menards and go buy an amplifier for less than $25 or buy them online and see if that helped boost your signal, and then do a rescan and see if that helps.
Frequencies and the directions that the antennas are broadcasting do change from time to time.
They do.
Another thing,
And there is a free app that I have. I can go find the name of it. I think it might be Antenna Web, but I'm not positive. Let me go find the app name.
Antenna Web is one of them.
Yep.
Antenna Web is a website, but I found I think it's Antenna Point, and that's an app, and I load it on my phone, and immediately you start it, it scans where you're at, and it'll tell you where the antennas are and the distance they are from you. It tells you in a bullseye or a map, and so you can get an idea by the distance rings that are on there, how far the antennas are from you. That helps a lot. It's the antenna point.
I notice another thing too is direction and strength of the wind really makes a difference on reception.
Well, yeah, weather does help.
I mean,
I don't
every
know
now
about-
and then a reliable WTTW channel 11 works just fine almost all the time, but every now and then the wind is in the right direction and strength. It's too weak of a signal to pick up.
Hmm. Okay. Let's see. Dennis, do you have something? Did you bring any gadgets?
No, I don't buy gadgets really.
Whoa, wait. What about old gadgets? I'm looking for old things that you bought years ago that you don't use.
Um, Not really.
Okay.
I still have several VCRs, but I still intend to use them for old videos.
VCRs. Okay. What brand VCR do you use?
Well, I've got a couple different brands of VCRs, but I don't use them now. But years ago when the kids were, 35, 40 years ago when the kids were little, I took a bunch of Video 8 tapes, which I started putting on the VHS tapes. But now I got to find some other medium to kind of start converting something to.
Well, you got it. All those VHS and videotapes, you got to pull the stuff off of them because they degrade very
Yeah.
quickly. I found that even on the ones I had, the quality starts going down on those tapes. Yeah, they'll still be there, but the quality is going to depreciate.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got something here. Let me unblur my background. This is my old Kodak DC-290 camera. I still have this one. It's a whopping is this 2.1 megapixel? I forgot. Yep, a whopping 2.1 megapixel. And it used 4 AA batteries. That was the best feature about it. It had a little compartment here, 4 AA's, and it had a memory card spot. Let's see. I don't even know if I still got that spot. That thing in there. Ah, here it is. And it took a big old compact flash 512 megabyte compact flash card. Don't want to get rid of this one. I love this camera because it really took great pictures. Some about what back then Kodak did something with different technology to enhance their photos on here, and even though they're 2.1 megapixel, I think these pictures always look the best. From all my cameras, this was one of the best ones. And that's that camera. Of course, everyone's got to have these little speakers with a little connector there to hook into your iPod. Ooh, iPod. So it has a battery built into it. Gotta like the little speakers. It worked pretty good. And then one more thing that I thought I'd show. Picked this up years ago. Is this coming in backwards, or to me does it look backwards? Is it reading right or wrong?
It's fine. It's
Okay.
fine.
All right. On my end, it looks backwards. So this is a personal camera that I got at Menards. And I think Stan once illustrated this little camera once before. He had it clipped onto his shirt, and he was walking around the CCS meetings. I don't remember. I think this is a 720p camera and USB 2.0, high speed 2.0. Boy, high quality, high definition. And maybe not even 720. Maybe this was 640 by 480. But that was it. It was a little camera like this, And it was supposed to be like a spy camera. You could charge it up and put it someplace and let it record for you. So that's a couple of the things that I had to show.
Here's you something.
Okay. What's that? A USB stick?
That's a HP flash drive. Guess what its capacity is?
512. 64.
No,
How many megabytes?
32.
32 megabytes. Wow. Now that's a terabyte in that size.
Yeah.
How about this?
What the heck?
Everyone remember one of these?
No. Oh yeah. Now I know. I had to look at the
little
picture.
spinning thing.
Yeah.
You shine the light on it, and the thing would twirl around and around. Radiometer, and I can't find it. My wife, we put it somewhere in the house. I gotta find this thing, but this is something I can't seem to get rid of.
It looks like that, right?
Yeah.
Yes, there you go, Brad. And
Yeah.
that's it. That's where it wound up, and it wound up at your house. How'd you get
What did it do?
it? I couldn't find my radio meter,
Radiometer.
and
The
I
sunlight
think
hits it, it spins.
Brad's got it.
What did it do?
It walked from my house to his house. Oh, what do they do when you, Brad?
Okay, so the sunlight hits it. It absorbs on the black side and heats differently on that side, and it causes a small current. It's on a very small, I guess it's a ball bearing of some type, so that as it heats up in sunlight, it just spins and spins and spins. So if you're into daydreaming, it gives you something to focus on and think about things.
And you can also charge your Tesla with it.
Well, it takes 20 years, but yeah.
More like about 20,000 years.
Yeah, probably.
How'd you happen to have one on your desk like that? I can't believe that.
It was one of those presents from the kids, so it stayed with me forever.
It's called quantum entanglement. His and yours were made at the same time.
Okay. Well, that was all the gizmos that I had to show real quick.
By the way, Sanford,
Yes.
on that a compact flash drive of 512, I do have a USB stick drive, USB 2, 512 megabyte, and it holds the Macrium Reflect recovery software. So you can do a restore of a backup, or you can make a backup through the same software.
Okay.
And it only took up about 400 megabytes out of the 512.
And you still trust this drive?
I still have it. I still use it.
Well, but I'm saying you still trust it.
Well, I mean, I can take that drive. It's a Macrium Reflect. I can take an external laptop backup drive. I can back up any of my Linux systems that way.
Okay.
Why? Because I boot off of the 512 USB stick, brings up Macrium Reflect. Macrium Reflect doesn't give a darn, and allows me to make a copy of that Linux system onto a external hard drive. And I can restore it the same way.
Up until very recently, we could do that and about 6 or 8 additional utilities on a single Ventoy drive.
Yeah.
Now Ventoy is running into an issue with Secure Boot.
Yeah.
You said Ventoid? What is Ventoid?
Ventoy is a program that boots on a flash drive, and then there's a selection menu, and you can run any of a number of ISOs that might be on that flash drive, and you run them directly.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything special to install them.
So
And you can just add or delete any of the ISOs, and you don't have to do anything special.
Right. If I had 6 different Linux distributions, I could put the ISO on here instead of flashing them onto a separate drive each, and then fire them up. Well, with a Ventoy like this, and there's another tool called Yummy that's basically the same thing. Uh, you just put the ISO images on here, plug it in, boot up off of this, and select the version you want. It'll run it directly from the ISO.
How do you make an ISO of a standing machine system? So let's say, wait, hold it.
No,
Let's
that's
say
a serious
you have
question.
like my Windows 10 machine right here,
That's
right
right.
now, the way it's configured. I want to make this into an ISO.
I've
How do I do that?
there are some pieces of software out there that are free that allow you to do that. A lot of them, though, are probably from the Linux world. So they probably will require you to download the software, flash it onto a dedicated flash drive that you would use, like Etcher or Rufus is the software under Windows. And then once you've got the software on there, you would boot your computer off of that, and then it can make the ISO, but you have to have an external drive available to put the ISO image onto. It's another way of actually doing a backup.
So
Usually,
the way you could use something like Macrium Reflect to make an ISO?
no, not that I'm aware of. You get an IMG. ISO and IMG are the two biggest formats. And sometimes what you can do is mount in Windows an ISO image, or sometimes you can get it to do an IMG image, but not always. It varies. And I know 10 and 11 will do an ISO, but I think I only was able to do an IMG on 11, but I may be wrong about that.
Okay.
Not all IMGs are the same, so no, you may not be able to.
Yeah.
All right.
But Macrium Reflect itself can mount its own archives, and you can explore them, and with the paid version, you can restore from them selectively.
And see, the thing with an ISO, that's an international standards organization format. That's why it works, and IMG may not always work.
Okay.
And there's
Isn't it?
something else. There's another format that is sometimes used, and that's called a VHD, and that can hold an entire system also. A VHD that uses the hypervisor in Windows Pro.
Okay.
Yeah, for
Is
that, you have to have a system that you can have 10 or 11 Pro on. You have to have, as an extra feature, turned on for hypervisor. And once you get that going, then you can make your own virtual machines on a machine, but you're sharing resources. It works the same concept as VMware and what's the other one? God, it's owned by VMware too. It's something box. Can't think of the name.
VirtualBox.
VirtualBox. VirtualBox. Conceptually, they all three work the same. There's also something that's for Linux based, but I think there was a version that existed at least at one time under Windows as well, called QUEM. But that one is so primitive, you have to have a graphical user interface program to make it easy to use.
Yeah, the thing about VHDs is they are truly portable. You can make copies of them and take them from machine to machine.
Right. And
Whereas
that's
VMs, you would not be doing that.
right. It's Victor Henry Dog.
Right. That's a
That's
virtual hard drive.
right.
But you need virtualization in whichever machine you run it on.
Yeah, and that doesn't come turned on. You have to go into the old control panel, the easiest way of doing it. You then take and go into programs and features. And on the right side, there's a area for features, and it'll bring up its own little box that's scrollable of various features that if they have a check mark, they're either fully active or partially active. And if it's a blank, it's not activated. And that's where the hypervisor is at. You have to turn it on. I've used it before on 10. But you're sharing your cores and your real memory to the virtual machine, and you have to have some available for your real machine. And that's the way all of these tend to work. So you got to have a lot of cores, a lot of memory to be able to have multiple virtual machines running versus just one. I usually did only one, but that's because I had insufficient cores and memory at the time.
Yeah. Now, if I want to just make a copy of my system or move it, there are tools that can do that that are basically partitioning tools. Minitool has one called Partition Master, which I've been successful with both Windows and Linux partitions. And I can copy them. I can copy them to larger or smaller. Sometimes smaller is a problem, but larger or smaller spaces. And so Minitool Partition Master. And it has a function where you just copy things. That is a lot faster than trying to copy data directly.
Yes.
And in like about 10 minutes, I can copy a 100 gigabyte partition.
That's pretty fast.
Yep, but it does seem to work. I have had some successes and a few failures. But that's how I populated my new upgraded SSDs that I'm using in enclosures. And so that rendered a couple of my SSD enclosures obsolete.
So how would I go to make a ISO, a runnable, bootable ISO of some old XP boxes or my OS2 machine?
I don't have any references to give you right now. It's been a long time since I looked at them. I probably got out on one of my machines here several references to software to make ISOs. So I
Yeah.
can probably
And I
find
actually
that.
want them to be, one I can run on whatever platform I put that in a virtual environment is fine. But I just want them to be accessible and operable. So I
Yeah.
have some old hardware that I want to decommission the hardware, but I want to retain the OS and everything that was there.
Well, when I say an ISO on 10 and 11 allows you to mount it, it's not running it. You have total, complete access to whatever is recorded there. So you can go in and retrieve a file that you accidentally deleted and put it onto your current system, etc.
I see. But I want to make them so they operate.
Yeah, but that's different. In most cases, VirtualBox, VMware, and Hypervision, you can mount a ISO image to load up a virtual machine, and then in some instances, it'll give you a headache if you unmount the ISO image. But if you are lucky, you can dismount the ISO image. You still have the virtual machine going, and you can open and close them. But you got to understand with virtual machines, especially if you go out on the internet, like XP as an example, you can end up with a infected system. It could crash in the virtual box. Usually it does not affect the host. I say
Right.
usually. Uh, all bets are optional on that one. But
I guess that
so,
would be is you'd have to set up the VM box so it does not go to the internet. It just stays local.
well, you can do that as far as that goes because you're sharing the host and you got
Yeah.
to tell it what you're sharing and what you're not sharing. And when you're in a virtual box, usually too, what you want to do is to have, um, some would call it a clone, but they call it a snapshot. And the snapshot is the equivalent of a clone of that virtual machine because every now and then something goes kablooey on your virtual machine. Well, if you have a recent snapshot, you just restore the snapshot and you're back in business as of what was the characteristic when the snapshot was made, just like a regular backup.
Okay, thanks. Different question, new direction, and we could keep going on the gadgets parts, but this one popped in my head. Somebody asked me, is it advisable to make a backup of a backup drive?
Technically, you could. I'm not exactly certain why you want to, but a backup drive, for example, since I have multiple machines, I have multiple drives, but on each drive, I may have multiple machines. So I make a folder for each machine. It's identifiable to a specific machine, and then I put the backup under that folder for that machine. Well, that's just data, nothing but data. So theoretically, you could take something like Macrium Reflect or Easeus to do backup. Say, okay, here's a drive I want backed up, which happens to be a backup drive with a lot of different backups. And I can then do a backup to another drive that might be external. The bad part is you have to make sure that the USB channels you are using are different so that they don't clobber each other. Otherwise, it's going to be a real slow process. And when you get done, you'll have a compressed version of a compressed backup drive. Why you want to do it that way, I don't know. But honestly, you can. And it would, if you really, there's a lot of people that really keep every backup they ever have made. And I'm not joking when I say that. So they may have dozens and dozens of drives full of backups galore, and they can go back at any point in time after backing up their system, restore a backup they did 10 years ago, and do something, get something off of it, whatever the case may be, and then put their current system back on to the computer. I know several people that did it. So it's something that is abnormal. Most people don't go that long.
My theory on doing a backup of a backup is that if you have errors in your backup, you'll never know, and all you're going to do is propagate those errors and possibly make them worse.
That's right.
Because every time you copy data, you risk losing bits.
But that's where
And-
the backup software that has the option to verify exactly what it copied
Okay,
with the original it comes in handy. And so, like with Macrium Reflect, you have to go into the menu bar and there's a subject called Other. And this first option is to create a rescue disk. The second one are various options, and one of those will verify your backup immediately when it's done making the backup. And if it says successful, I have yet to have a failure. If it says there's a problem, you wipe out that backup image, you go back in and you redo it again. If it fails a second time, then I know I've got some kind of a corruption problem on my main system. That's when I start using SFC space scan now and DISM and check dis to find correct some kind of a problem that's on my real system. Then when I do the backup again, it's always gone through.
Okay, great explanation. I think we went through everybody in the group who possibly had something to show us. In the meantime, that gave Bob a chance to go and show us something he's got. What'd you go grab and find, Bob?
What was I?
You were looking for something else you didn't use that you were gonna show us.
No, all that I have, if my webcam hasn't disconnected itself. It has.
The
Just a
webcam.
moment. Let me see what's supposedly out.
Ooh, look at that. It says Intel. How
There.
can you do that?
Now, because I'm using an Intel virtual camera. Let me first see. Okay. Now let me see if I have my Intel virtual. That should. Nah, that's not going to work. Okay. Well, anyway, what I was trying to get to was this guy. All right. This is the older drive. It's an enclosure, which I was using. And this one is from Wavelink. And it encloses a relatively small SSD, which goes goes to a Thunderbolt 3 port on my NUC. And I upgraded to a larger enclosure, which is also Wavelength. This one has vents all over it, and it has an internal heatsink because it's using, instead of the old, how much was it? I think it was about a 256 gigabyte. I'm using a 1 terabyte SSD in here, and that's going to generate a bit more heat.
Right.
So anyway, this was the situation where I was copying what was here, which was about 200 gigabytes of Linux, onto here. And that's where I used Minitool as my tool for doing that. And so I ended up with an exact copy of my system just by doing a partition copy. By the way, when I make data backups or system backups, I usually make multiple copies. I make about 3 independent copies. And they will be on they will be on independent drives. And so I have 3 backup drives. Those, by the way, got filled, so I have on order 3 more backup drives so that I can have a whole year's worth of backups. That's as far as I'm going.
This
And how big of a drives did you order?
My drives, now remember, I'm backing up 4 Linux systems and 2 Windows systems. So my drives are 8 terabytes each.
now
And so it's a total of 24 terabytes of backup. And and that means basically I will now have 48 terabytes of backup total. And that's a
So
year's worth. That's a year's worth.
is one of those backups going to be kept off site?
that's the
No, I
question.
haven't gotten to the point where I'm doing that.
I have been in other group meetings where this general topic has come up, where they do something very similar to what Bob just described him doing. Only they have one local drive that they back up to, and then they use a cloud account for another copied backup up there. And there's another person that takes Bob's same exact idea of two independent backups being made, and he has a daughter that he takes that one to periodically and picks up the one that she's got there and does the same function. So
Bob, you were going to
there's,
show us?
pardon?
Can I? Just a
Oh, no,
moment.
I don't know. You changed screens. Did you?
No. The reason is I just got my Intel virtual camera back. I accidentally disconnected. What
Got
I
it.
do want to show you is various boxes. I can do that with my other camera. That is going to be the quick cam. I do have things like this is the enclosure, and what I want to show you is the kinds of drives I use. This is a WD Black, and this one advertises as a gaming drive.
Hmm.
And these generally have faster speeds, higher heat tolerance, and just better performance characteristics under really demanding conditions. And an enclosure is going to put a lot of strain on things. So that's what I used. It's WD Black. This one is SN850X, which is 1 TB. And it was relatively inexpensive. What I haven't put into anything yet is one of my other favorite brands, which is a Samsung 990 Evo. And I was going to replace an internal drive with this one because the internal drive is just simply small. And this is a very good brand and a very good type for internal, especially on a NUC, which tends, again, to have all these problems that the small form factor computers have. So that's the stuff, the enclosure and the drives. If I had my other webcam connected, I could show you the Seagate drives that I have, but they're nothing unusual in their appearance. They're just the 8 TB Seagate Basic.
Well, what is that white thing with the yellow cord that's kind of curly Q cord? It looks like a mouse tail right
This?
there. What is that?
That's a phone. That's my telephone.
Telephone. You got a landline with a phone?
I've got a Comcast voice over IP.
Yeah,
VoIP.
Wow.
I do the same thing, only mine are wireless.
Yeah. Mine is hooked up with the RJ, whatever it was that we always used. And it's an
RJ10.
AT&T, it's an AT&T
RJ11.
CL, it's a CL, yeah, RJ11. It's a CL 2909 model AT&T phone, which shows the caller ID and everything.
Wow.
And in order to retain the numbers, it uses some AAA batteries inside the phone, and it's a regular phone.
Hmm.
It's not one of these fancy new base stations or anything like that.
And my
I can't call up to the ISS with it. I can't call Elon and tell him,
I use
yeah,
these.
could you reposition your Starlink over my place? I wish I could.
I
Oh,
use
one other thing I've got. This is an HDMI recording. It's a pass through, and this one doesn't pass through the HDCP, so you can record off of it from HDMI. You're not supposed to be allowed to do that. But anyway, as long as it is not commercial content, it's completely kosher to do it. It's just that it isn't possible with modern equipment.
Got it.
Okay, now let's see why I don't have. Just a moment. Let's see if that is working. All right. Well, losing my camera again. All right. Am I? Oh, well. Let's see if I can do it that way. Okay. I think that must be it. There we go. I'm back. So that's what I'm doing these days with that sort of thing.
Okay.
The one thing I didn't talk about, unless somebody else wants to say something about something they're doing, is the issue with Ventoy. The August update from Microsoft. It changed Secure Boot. And if Secure Boot has been changed, it will have revoked some of the certificates. So there will be some things that won't boot anymore. And this means that with Secure Boot enabled on my NUC, I am not able to boot Ventoy. They haven't updated what is called a shim in order to accommodate the new blacklist. My other PC has Linux on an internal drive instead of these external ones. That was detected as a dual boot, and it did not do the Secure Boot SBAT blacklist. There, I'm still able to boot Ventoy without messing with Secure Boot. So there's been a change, and if your computer has gotten this update, you should be making new recovery media, and you should be making new install media for anything and everything, and make sure it'll boot. That includes Macrium Reflect. That includes Windows. And a lot of people are going to get caught short on this. So that's just a little caveat for people.
Okay, thank you.
And not all PCs got that update.
All right, anyone else got any comments or anything they'd like to add to tonight's meeting? Tim, you want to make an announcement or discuss about the ballots you sent out, the information you sent out, election?
You're doing fine. Go ahead.
No, this is not my department.
It ain't my department either. I'm just the one that got stuck with it.
All right, well, now you're stuck again. Would you like to talk about it?
Every year we have an election. This year is the directors. Next year will be the executive portion of the board. We have two directors at the moment. We can have up to 5. And I don't know what the 2 current directors have in mind as far as if nobody else takes one of the jobs, they might stay on or they may not. I don't know yet. We have a board meeting coming up in about 11 days. And we got to have anybody who will volunteer to be a director has to submit their name. We will verify that they submitted it, not somebody else's submitting your name. And then we'll go from there, Nat, in making a ballot that'll go out to the membership and
So these are regional directors, correct?
pardon?
These are regional directors.
Yes.
So we have a West Side director, we have a South Suburban director, and we
That's
have
right.
a Northwest
No.
director.
You
We
got
do
a
not.
Northwest region, but they've never gotten anybody to volunteer to be in, the Northwest director. We still have on the books downtown area and also Lake County, Indiana, Illinois, excuse me, that doesn't have any groups in it either. But still, you could have at-large directors as far as that goes. They don't have to be.
Right. So the director would give the reports on what happened at the respective meetings.
Yes.
Okay, so a South Suburban director is going to be looking only at South Suburban and give the report on what happened at that, as well as be able to vote on board issues,
Yeah,
correct?
that's
All
correct so
right.
far.
West Suburban would be this club, the West Side Club, as well as tips and tricks, right?
Yes.
All right, and then what the other directors are, what other regions?
There are no other directors.
Okay, so we have Northwest and
We
we
have
have Lake
Northwest
County, but we
region,
have no representation there.
right?
So we're
And
looking for
that's
those.
been
We're
an
looking for all of them.
ongoing. That's been an ongoing thing for probably 10 or more years.
All right, so I would encourage anyone who has the time and would like to become a director, please sign up and let us know that you want to take over the job.
That's in your neck of the wood, Dennis.
It's in
You're in
anyone's neck of
Northwest
the woods.
region.
All right, that being said, any other last questions or comments for tonight's meeting? I will stop the recording.